A big ol' happy birthday to sweet Y-O-U. Now, typically I'd give a radio friend a gift certificate to the free clinic. Oh, but not this time. I am baking up something sweet. So let's pull the lever for your prize, and I think it might just be a fun radio feature. It's an AI-powered artist birthday bit. Oh, and it is sweeter than sidewalk Skittles that just fell out of your piñata.
We are on the air.
Hey there, I'm Jeff, the radio DJ dude, and way back in the day when I was rocking mics on real radio, whenever I'd hear a DJ do a birthday bit, the first thing that would race through my mind was, wow, what an incredibly lazy son of a... I mean, birthdays and this day in history bits, please, the lowest common denominator when it comes to radio content. Because basically, people are just ripping and reading from the wire. If you're having a birthday today, well, did you know you're in good company? Other birthdays include Alexander the Great, Merv Griffin, and the inventor of the toilet plunger. I mean, give me a break. It takes zero skills or creativity to read a list of birthdays. However, if you're able to spin that around, make it your own, do something creative with a very old, stale idea, now that's interesting. Now you're innovating. Now listeners will lean in because you've just kind of broken the mold and you've created a pattern interrupt. I mean, creativity is great for that. So what I have on offer today is a birthday related bit, but it infuses some life and some fun into birthdays. Because bottom line, even though I think just reading a list of birth dates is incredibly lame, listeners seem to dig birthdays. So far be it from this radio snob to deny them from their joy. Put your ear on this. This is what we're creating.
Today, it's Sting's birthday. Before becoming the iconic frontman of the Police and a legendary solo artist, Gordon Sumner was actually a school teacher in Newcastle. He got his nickname because he used to wear a black and yellow striped sweater that made him look like a bee. From rock sand to fields of gold, his unmistakable voice has given us some of music's most unforgettable moments. Here's a wild fact. Sting can hold a single sung note for an incredible 45 seconds. Plenty of hot air to blow out his candles. Happy birthday, Sting, from XXX80s.
Wishing you a totally rad birthday from XXX80s.
And the super cool thing, we're leaning on the AI overlords. We're putting the bots to work to not only come up with the artists' names and birthdays, but also to write our scripts and even record our voice tracks if you want to go that route. So first up, the artist list, because how do we know who is having a birthday when? We have to first tap in to your music library and extract all the names, band names, artist names, and it's easier than you think. For my sassy radio DJ and Sam broadcasters, this is super simple because all the magic happens over in a SQL database. That's where we store all of our music library information. So for this, we're heading over to Heidi SQL, which is our database utility program. So first off, you want to start up a new query tab, then highlight your radio station's database. So for my instance of RadioDJ, this is where all that nonsense lives. Then we're pasting in this query and watch what happens. Boom! Now, this is a list of every single artist in my library, but only appearing once. We know there's many songs by the Commodores. We know there's a slew of hits from Culture Club, but we've told this to select distinct artists. Basically, only spit it out once. So this becomes incredibly valuable for our next step. But now what do we do to get this from here to where we need to go? So you click on the first artist and then Control A. Everyone has been selected. You're going to right click and choose Export Grid Rows. We're exporting a CSV file. And now we got to figure out a place to save this sucker. There we go. That looks great. Save. Hit OK. And remember where you're parking this baby. You're going to need it in a second. If you want to check it out, you could upload it to your Google Drive account and then come down here, open with Google Sheets, then it transforms it into a Google Sheets doc, and then you can see all your glorious work. So congratulations, you now have a list of every damn artist in your library. So what? I mean, that's the only thing you have on the list. There's no birth date. Well, that's coming up next. But here is a power tip. At this point, maybe you haven't actually reviewed every artist or band name in your library. Why would you do such a nutty thing? Well, for one thing, to catch some spelling mistakes. I mean, I got snagged a couple of times. I mean, I didn't even realize this till just now. Train your eagle eye on Guns N' Roses. Do you see anything different? Well, you might not. But if you really zoom your peepers in, this Guns N' Roses has a different apostrophe. It has the wrong apostrophe. It needs to be a straight apostrophe, not a curly one. And believe it or not, your radio station playout software treats that as a separate artist, and that causes some big artist separation issues. I mean, you could have two Guns N' Roses songs back to back because your artist doesn't know the difference. I know when I previously did this, there was a Run DMC issue. Okay, look at this. I have two different Run DMC entries. This is a potential on-air train wreck. So you want to make sure you head back to your radio station playout software and fix this. So if I just type run, I can see here, I already made these changes. But look at this. This is actually a third spelling of Run DMC. This is for their Christmas song. So I'd come into here and I'd clean this up to make sure it's consistent with every other Run DMC entry in the database. So that looks good. So this is really invaluable. And then I'll just delete that. Give this a good glance. Look at this, Terrence Trent D'Arby. Another darn curly quote. So I'm going to delete that and I'll make sure to fix that over on RadioDJ. When's the last time any of us have scrutinized all of our artist entries in the database? Never. So this really gives you a chance to catch those discrepancies and fix them before it really junks up your on-air sound. But keep in mind, and this is very important, any changes you make to this spreadsheet, they have to be carried over to your radio station playout software, which in turn will then rewrite your database with the correct artist spelling. Because later on, the artist name has to be a dead-on match in our code compared to the artist that is in your database. I mean, to be safe, what you could even do is use this as your first pass guide and then come back to, your database program, and you could rerun this query and then kind of export the corrected list. So if you made any changes to this spreadsheet, what you could do is download a clean version, CSV file of this, and I'm just going to say artist list edits. So now that we've taken the musical dustbuster to your library and we've sucked out all that juicy artist data, now we have to put some birth dates to those names. And even more than that, I mean, it's easy for solo artists, but what about all the band names? Well, we also have to figure out maybe one or two lead singers from each band name and then find their birthdays. So when I first tried this, I threw this prompt into ChatGPT. And wow, was I floored when those bots just dropped a 50-pound sack of gopher manure on my doorstep. It was a complete crash and burn. Those bots could not pull this off. And this is really important. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach for AI tools. Each one of these large language models has their own specialty. ChatGPT is great for some things. Claude is great for script writing. But I decided to roll the musical dice over at Google AI Studio. I've had a lot of success with them in the past. And the great thing about Google AI Studio and some of their large language models is they have very large context windows. And all that means they can handle a ton of data that we need to dump on them. Because, I mean, even in my library, I have over 500 names that need to be processed. So I pasted this prompt over in Google AI Studio. I chose this large language model. And what I originally meant to do was just copy 100 names. I didn't want to overwhelm the bots, which I think is what happened to ChatGPT. I uploaded the whole list of over 500 artists. So I thought I was just copying 100 artists' names from my spreadsheet, and I was going to give that to Google to work on. But no, I made a mistake, and I apparently gave them the entire list from my library. And what floored me is this. I had to quickly turn on my screen recorder because it just started spinning up and spitting out all the data that we need. Not only was it pulling birthdays for these solo artists, but it was doing the research to find band names and then give us their birth dates. So I was completely shocked. This is still running now, so we'll see if it actually finishes the job. But so far, so good. So while they're humming away, this is the prompt, and you can find this prompt in the link in the description, which basically entails you uploading that CSV file of all the artists in your library with these specific instructions. And for that first SQL query, that is also available at that same link. So you just copy and you paste this into your database program. Now, if you don't use RadioDJ or SAM, you have to figure out another way to output a list of all the artists in your library. So 163 seconds into the run, I get an error. So quickly, I download the work that it generated up to this point. I saved it as a CSV file. That's very important. And I wanted to actually see if it delivered anything. So opening this thing up, once again, jaw dropped. It did all the way up to the T's, hundreds of names, and found, band members' names and their birthdays. To save some time, I thought, well, maybe if I just copy and paste the rest of the names, don't even generate a CSV file, give them the names with a prompt saying, hey, pick up where you left off, go. And wow, whammo bammo, it is speeding through the remaining names just like that. In less than 20 seconds, we're done. So if it isn't crystal clear, yes, I definitely urge you to use Google AI Studio to complete this task. And after you download your CSV file, open it up, copy all the data, come over to Google Sheets, create a new sheet, and this is an important pro tip. You want to highlight all the cells, then under Format, come down here to Numbers and choose Plain Text. Then paste your data in, and if it all comes in one column, come over to Data and choose Split Text Columns. That'll spread all your data across 3 columns. And by choosing plain text, it preserves our needed birthday date format with the leading 0. Now that we've collected all of our tasty ingredients, all the artist names and their birthdays, now we're going to throw those into our mixing bowl so we can actually whip up our batter. And for this, we head over to our favorite no-code automation station, make.com. And they have a radio DJ friendly plan for all of us radio DJ cheapskates, free, which entitles you to 1,000 operations a month. I know that sounds like, oh boy, Marge hit me on the head with a corn cob and call me Wilbur. But no, you will soon see that 1,000 ops, can easily be burned through pretty quickly, especially if you're using some of my other automations that I've rambled on about in the past. But anyway, we're going to use Make because it's really easy to use and it gets the job done. So if you don't have an account, well, what are you waiting for? Create one. Then get yourself logged in. I'm going to be dazzling you with 2 scenarios. First up, we have the manual scenario where you're pushing buttons to make all the magic happen. And there's basically 2 phases of this. One, you have to search for relevant birthdays, send that artist information over to your very talented script writers. They write the script, and then they file that script back over to your Google Sheet, and then we make sure that sheet is super tidy, ready for the next phase. While a computer science degree is not required to set this baby up, maybe you're just looking to smash that easy button and save yourself some hours of development time and frustration. Well, have I got the time saver for you. You head over to my shop, links in the description. Not only can you pick up all these Make.com scenarios, this manual version and the cool webhook version, which is more hands-off, and I'll get to in a second. So you get the make.com files. All you do is you import these in to your account, and then you have to, connect these to, your Dropbox account. And then, of course, you got to get your 11 Labs connection wired up. But after you do all that, then this thing just runs. Not only do you get the make.com files, but I am going to bestow upon you this super cool Artist Birthdays Google Sheet where, look at this, 520 artists already been pre-researched. I'd say this is at least 85% accurate. And look, I mean, seriously, there's 520 artist names. And, sometimes you find like, let's say Duran Duran, we have 3 entries. Simon Le Bon, Nick Rhodes, John Taylor. So you have 3 different birthdays. And the cool thing with this spreadsheet, as you make updates, it'll change the total, but at a glance, it'll tell you today's birthdays. And then you could set this code here to look ahead for a week. So you know what birthdays are coming up. And maybe, here, March 22nd, we have 3 birthdays, and maybe you don't care about Stephanie Mills or George Benson. So this gives you a chance to come to the sheet and make a note so your script writers will ignore those and only produce content for the artists that you want to celebrate on air. So this is step 1 of the spreadsheet. Step 2 is the script section, where this is the spot where our script writer is going to deposit our script to. And of course, it'll update it with the birth date, artist name, band name, the script. And this is where you can make edits to the script, which I always say you should. And after you make those edits, using my webhook version, which stay tuned for the details on that cool workflow, once you drop this menu down to approved, if you're using the webhook script, it'll automatically kick this scenario into gear because it's always on and it's listening, which is a really cool thing. So you don't have to jump back to make.com. It automatically runs. And of course, in the sheet, I have some setup information for how to pull this off because in order to create these connections, there are some apps scripts in play with the Google Sheet. And since it uses a make.com webhook, well, you would have to go into one of these scripts, the webhook VO trigger, and slide your webhook in right there. And so once you open up this webhook scenario, you're going to have to change out this webhook module because you need your own custom webhook address. But it'll show up right there, and you copy that address to the clipboard. You come over here and you paste it in right there in between the quotes, and then you're off and running. And keep in mind, this artist spreadsheet is definitely geared more towards 80s music because that's what I play at my 80s flamethrower, XXX80s.com. But I mean, if you're playing yacht rock, if you're playing just a general hit station that you do some flashbacks, there's a ton of artist info in here that probably would be relevant. If you're doing, hot AC, well, come on. Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel, Peter Cetera. I mean, there's all relevant artists for most formats on here. And it's a great start. If you want to beef up this list with additional artists, well, you're already 520 along, which will save you a bunch of time. Okay, enough of the high-pressure sales pitch. We're back to make.com. This automation starts off with a Google Sheets module, and specifically a search rows. Okay, you see that? Search rows. There you go. Of course, you have to connect your Google Sheets account to make.com, and there's definitely online help on how to pull this off. So once you have your account wired up, let me show you what this module looks like. And you have to search for a spreadsheet. I'm saying select from all. And just to make sure I get this 100% right, for spreadsheet ID, I'm actually coming over to my spreadsheet. And you look up here, right after the D/, I'm copying this long string of gobbledygook right between the 2 forward slashes. I'm copying that, and then I'm pasting it in right here. So that hooks my active spreadsheet up to the make.com account. So for sheet name, when you click the drop down, it scans your sheet and it sees there's 3 different sheets: birthdays, scripts, and setup info. Well, we specifically want the birthdays. This is our birthday list. So once we lock that in, yes, table does contain headers. That's just row 1 with helpful names. Column range, we're saying A through Z. And this filter section is really important. And it's going to be different for you because I don't know how you want your filter set up. I mean, originally, when I launched this half-baked idea, I thought, well, I'll just filter by day, just today only. And I'll spit out the 1 or 2 artist birthdays every day, and I'll produce those voiceovers daily. Maybe I can even automate this to run every night at 12:01 a.m. And then it just, starts this whole sequence off. It'll then search my spreadsheet for the couple artists who have birthdays, write those scripts, add them to the Google Sheets. And I think I had one scenario where it automatically just did the voiceover and then sent the files to Dropbox, which would land on our radio station's computer. Now, sure, you could do that, but I think it's more efficient to look ahead a week, which this is how this filter is set up. It's looking from today up to 7 days from today, and it's going to return names that have an empty status field. The status field here, now, when a script has been written, we update this field. When a voiceover has been recorded, this field also gets updated with VO. The status column is important so we're not, overwriting scripts and redoing things unnecessarily. So as long as that status column is empty and the birthdays fall within our, required time range, then we're in good shape. I'm ordering it by the actual birthday date in ascending order. Early on when you're testing, I think it's smart just to limit it to 1 because you don't want to have a lot of unnecessary operations here. So when you just start, this will be your first module. If you want to test your work, you could right-click on it and say run this module only, and it goes to work. And we see this output for Human League, Susan Ann Sully. Her birthday is March 22, 1963. If we want to check that out, here we go. Susan Ann Sully, Human League, 322. Next up is our script writer. And I have switched to using OpenRouter for our AI model because the great thing with OpenRouter, as you've heard me go on in the past, this hooks you up with every possible large language model AI program out there. You could choose Claude by Anthropic. You could, go for OpenAI if you want, for ChatGPT. Let's say you want Gemini from Google. It has all the popular large language models and even has some free models. So if you want to, save your pesos, we'll type in free and this will show you what you could use. But keep in mind, you get what you give. So I definitely would recommend, as I usually do, to kick the digital tires on all these large language models before you settle on one. What does that mean? It means taking this prompt, going over to OpenRouter, pasting the prompt in and trying out these different AI models and then judging the output. Do you like the content? Do you like the scripts that are generated? And once you do, then you come back over here and you can choose your model of choice. For me, for the most kind of human conversational output, it's tough to beat any of the Claudes. There's Claude 3.5, there's Claude 3.7 at the time of this video. So Claude does a bang-up job with script writing. But it is one of the more expensive models, so only you can determine what works best for you. And keep in mind, if you are using a paid model, well, you got to pony up the dollars. So you come over to your account, click Add Credits, and I think the minimum you can put in is $5. So that's not bad. And these credits go a long way. These prompts are not going to drain you dry. And of course, feel free to tweak this prompt. You need to manipulate it to match your station's sound, your brand. And of course, you're going to want to edit this line where you're ending the script by saying happy birthday to so-and-so from your radio station name here. Or you may not even want this. So once again, put your own polish on the prompt, and then you paste that baby into here. That you want to make sure that you're connecting the data from the spreadsheet. You see here when I hover over the boxes on the right, the module on the left starts pulsating. So that just lets you know which module is active. So I have artist name. Let's say if I didn't. So if you make a change and you blow out this data, well, it's easy to bring that back in. So artist name, I'm clicking. And for band, I'm clicking and boom, now we're connected again. Next up, you're going to be adding a row. So this is a special Google Sheets module that is add a row. See that? There it is. And once again, you're pasting that spreadsheet ID, which we've determined. Just so happens to live right up there. You find the right sheet name for this. We're moving over to our scripts sheet. We make sure scripts sheet is selected. Yes, you betcha, that table does contain headers. And now the values. This basically says that we want to fill up these rows with the birth date, the artist name, the band name, and the script. And this is what that looks like. So it's pulling the birth date, the artist name, and the band name from our first module, search rows. So that's what this bday, artist name, and band, that's where it's coming from. Now the script, you see how that's in gray? Well, that is coming from the OpenRouter module. Specifically, if you scroll down choices, message, we want the content. Whammo bammo. Now we're good to go. We save that sucker. And then what we're doing on this last module, we're using the spreadsheet ID from the very first spreadsheet right here. Okay, so we're just clicking on that. The sheet name, yep, we're finding sheet name, which is right there. And then row number. This is really important because it's using the row number to match on which artist that you want to update. So row number is pretty easy to find. It's just right there. Column range A to Z. And all we're doing for values, this basically, what values means, that's your column names, okay? You see status? Well, that is D. How do we know it's D? Well, it says D, status D. And I'm just hard coding this to say script. So what this will do, every time a script is written right here, okay? So for Donnie Van Zant of 38 Special, yep, looks like we have a script. So let us change the status to say script. So not only is this a helpful reminder to us, but for future make.com runs, we know not to redo those scripts, because if you look down here in our first search rows module, we're saying, hey, that status column must be empty before you even think of writing a script. So now it obviously is not empty. So this just avoids writing a script for 38 Special in the future. So now with all this in place, let's actually run this and see what we get. So it searched the sheet, found a birthday. Script writers are hard at work. Now they're going to upload that script to our sheet, and we're going to mark the status as, a script has been written. There we go. Susan and Sully, Human League. Just to double check our work, let's pop over here to the Human League. Say it with me. Yes, so good. And then we see a script has been written. What kind of a script? Well, now we're going to find out. Today, it's Susan and Sully's birthday. She joined the Human League at just 17 years old after Philip Oakley spotted her dancing with her friend. Okay, so when we're reviewing these scripts, which is so important, because your sound is your selling point. It's all you have on offer. I mean, come on. That is what you're hooking listeners with, and hopefully converting them into longtime listeners. So crap in, crap out. You've heard me say it before. This part of the process is so important. You need to review. You need to put your peepers on every one of these scripts. Make your changes. Make sure the scripts reflect your radio station's personality, your brand voice. You could not just put this on autopilot and hope for the best and hope the bots will know what your station needs to keep your listeners happy. And the other thing you're looking out for are some speed bumps that may trip our robo voiceover artists up when we send this to 11 Labs to have these recorded. And it means adding some commas here and there, making sure other punctuation elements don't throw the bots off. So I added a comma. Dancing with her friend Joanne Cathrall. And we need another comma there. Just move along. At Sheffield's Crazy Daisy nightclub. Originally hired as a dancer, she quickly became one of the band's lead vocalists, helping create their signature sound on classics like Don't You Want Me. Speaking of Don't You Want Me, Sully actually hated recording the song and strongly opposed its release. This could throw the bot up, that space and dash. So I just will say wild, comma, considering it became their biggest hit. Put a comma there. Happy birthday, comma, Suzanne Sully from Triple X 80s. Do we need Dancing with her friend Joanne? But I think we just say, after Philip Oakley spotted her dancing at Sheffield's Crazy Daisy nightclub. So that script has been edited. I've teased you with this before, but this drop down gives you the chance to do a couple things. One, it lets you know that you've approved a script. If you have our webhook automation engaged, what it will do, it'll automatically start a make.com scenario to send this script over to 11 Labs. It automates this process so you don't have to go back to make.com. You could just continue your editing, because let's say you're in editing mode and you just want to, go script to script, make your changes, and then send them off to have the voiceover recorded. Well, you can do all that within Google Sheets. Now, if you don't want to deal with webhooks, well, that's where this second path of our automation comes into play. And we're basically grabbing those edited scripts, sending them to 11 Labs, then having those files sent to our Dropbox, and we're updating the status on our sheet. I'll show you how to do both, but let's say you want to roll manually. So you see what I did? I grabbed this clock, I'm pulling it down here to the lower path, and we'll execute that in 1 second. Let's first peek under the hood at these modules. So same deal. I'm pasting the spreadsheet ID right here. The sheet name is scripts. And I have some filters. And once again, if you pick up my make.com pre-done automations and you're just importing these files into your make.com account, well, it's going to be super easy. This will already be filled out. But what we're saying is, for filter, the status of your script is approved, and also if status VO does not exist, then you could record the voiceover. What does that mean? Well, over here, it means that we've approved it, and for status VO, this column is empty. Once we record the file, that's when the system drops a date marker. It lets us know the voiceover was recorded at this date and at this time. Next up, 11 Labs. Here's our 11 Labs module. Once again, you have to plug in your 11 Labs account. You jump through those hoops. Then you choose the voice. And just like we did with our digital tire kicking on our prompts and OpenRouter, something else I ramble on about a lot is auditioning the right voiceover actor for your projects. So that means testing out enough of these voices before settling on the one that has the most realistic output. No robo junk on your radio station, okay? So that means pasting in these scripts, okay? We want to come back over here. Let's copy the entire script, come over to our 11 Labs account, and then using text to speech, we're going to paste in this script, and then we just start auditioning different voices. So I think I landed on Cassidy with being a decent read. And as you're testing, you keep hitting generate speech and it spits out another read. And then over here, you're tweaking the settings and you're finding the right settings that produce the best output. So with these settings in mind, stability 43, similarity 75, her name's Cassidy. I have all that in my noggin. I'm selecting voice Cassidy. So the text, this is our script, okay? So if this happens to be empty, you're basically grabbing the script from our spreadsheet. This is where you enter the voice settings. Even though it says 43% at 11 Labs, that is represented by 0.43 in the module. Same with similarity boost. We lock that in. That looks great. Next up is a Dropbox module, specifically upload a file. And yes, you got to connect your account to make.com. Once you do that, you want to create a special folder over in Dropbox. And you do this in Dropbox. You create the folder. For me, it's Radio Birthdays. And then the great thing is, once your account's connected, you could click on folder and you could see all your different radio weather, radio trivia. Well, I want Radio Birthdays. So next up for file, you think, well, isn't it the 11 Labs file? Well, it is, but you want more flexibility. So you're going to click Map. We're creating a file name that will later draw upon in our SQL query for the radio station software. So it needs to look at the file name and parse out a couple things. This is the file name format right here. So it's date, the artist, and the bday. This is actually untrue. This is band. This is getting a little confusing. When I say artist and band, I'm saying the name in your radio station database. I mean, in our music libraries, we don't have Cindy Wilson, but we have the B-52s. So that's what I mean. And that's really important to make sure this band name is in the file name, because that's what we're using to match on in our SQL query later on at the radio station. So we're saying the birth date, which is row A of our scripts sheet right there. And I'm using bday just as an informational file marker. And for data, we're taking the data, which is the raw MP3 file from 11 Labs, and that goes in that slot. We're overwriting a file if it exists, and that's it. We're saving this, and then once it does its thing, then we're going to update our script sheet with today's date and time. So if you're ready to run this, let's make sure everything looks good. We've approved Susan Ann Sully's birthday script. Okay, let's run this sucker and see what we get. So, oh my God, they've already recorded the voiceover. They're up. Oh, it's done. I don't even have time to spit out the words. Over here, look at this. 322, the Human League birthday file. And here it is.
Today, it's Susan Ann Sully's birthday. She joined the Human League at just 17 years old after Philip Oakey spotted her dancing at Sheffield's Crazy Daisy nightclub.
Okay, that sounds good. And I actually just got a message on my laptop screen that you can't see that the file was downloaded to our Dropbox desktop folder, which is great because that's the folder that our radio station needs to pull the files from. And if you doubt your favorite radio DJ dude, well, let us take a peek into Radio Birthdays, and there we go. There is our Human League birthday file right here. Now, of course, we'd never air this raw MP3 file from 11 Labs. Oh, God, no. If audio quality actually matters to you, then you have to do some audio processing. But I wouldn't suggest doing this manually. No, I'm all about saving time. That's why you run my automated audio processing app, which not only hits it with some really poppy compression and limiting and really makes the volume pop, well, it is also trimming a bunch of awkward silent spots that AI voices are notorious for. I mean, if we just open up this MP3 file in Audacity, so right here, look at all these dead bits. So that's 0.425. I mean, this is a long stretch of silence right there. That's almost 0.6 seconds. This is a good 0.7 seconds. And that just kills your momentum, and it actually makes it sound less believable. It definitely makes it sound more robo-esque because we don't talk like that. My automated processing app, it strips away all the silence bits, and it really hits it with some healthy radio compression and makes it broadcast ready. Now, like I said, it does all this hands-free. It's available in my shop. It's very affordable, and it'll definitely save you a ton of time. But more important, it'll give you a really great sound. And once again, that's all we have to offer our listeners. So popping back over to our sheet, we see in status VO, this has been updated with the date and the time of the recording. By doing that, it'll prevent future voiceovers being re-recorded for Susan Ann Sully. And just to follow through, because we have a couple scripts running in the background here, if we look over on the date, if we go to Human League, look at this. Her status column has been updated with, not only do we have a script, but we also have a voiceover. Loving it.
Today, it's Susan Ann Sully's birthday. She joined the Human League at just 17 years old after Philip Oakey spotted her dancing at Sheffield's Crazy Daisy nightclub. Originally hired as a dancer, she quickly became one of the band's lead vocalists, helping create their signature sound on classics like Don't You Want Me. Speaking of Don't You Want Me, Sully actually hated recording the song and strongly opposed its release. Wild, considering it became their biggest hit. Happy birthday, Susan Ann Sully from XXX 80s.
Wishing you a totally rad birthday from XXX 80s.
So that's the manual approach. I did promise you to show you this wild webhook approach. What is a webhook? Well, this is a personal robo assistant that's always listening to any rumblings over on your Google Sheet. So the moment that you activate the status from edit to approved, if you have this webhook activated, it's going to be listening. And then it'll start this workflow based on that. So if we want to run this, it's waiting for data. Okay, it's listening in. So let's give it some data to work on. If we come back over to our spreadsheet, today it's Sting's birthday. Let's change this. We'll say plenty of hot air to blow out his candles. Great. This script has been officially edited, and we'll see if this works. I'm going to click this to approve, then we'll pop back over to make.com and see if it does anything. Looky, looky, just like that. It has been completed. Let's pop over to Dropbox. The police. Oh my goodness, there's our voiceover. Loving it. And as you can see, the status VO column has been updated with the date and the time that the VO was recorded. And jumping over to our main bday sheet, making sure we're not full of that. Here is the police, so we could see script and VO has been notated. And on our Dropbox desktop folder, look at that, we've got the police file ready to rock and roll. So if you end up using this workflow and you're having issues with this trigger, well, come over to Extensions, App Scripts. It'll load this webhook script. And sometimes you have to kick it back into gear by coming up here, choosing Create Trigger, clicking Run, and then it just re-engages the process. So the next time you come over here to make.com and you run this, it's going to say, wait, use existing data. You want to click for wait for new data. And once you've tested it and you're digging the output of this workflow, then you come over here and you click immediately as data arrives, and this becomes an active webhook scenario. So when you pop out of it, you can see this on switch. But keep in mind, with free accounts, you only get 2 free active webhook scenarios. I have this one. You may have another one. So you may have to switch off. And maybe you only run this at the beginning of each week when you're generating scripts, you're editing scripts, and that's when you want to use this webhook functionality. We're making incredible progress. We've baked the cake. All the voice files have been recorded. Now it's time to put on some of that tasty frosting. And that basically entails producing a super cool feature opener for your birthday bit. So I jumped over to Adobe Audition to create this little ditty. And you know me, I love a good setup because it sets the stage for your bit, and honestly, it really sells it in a way that just running this dry would make it fall flat. And it sometimes helps boost the quality of maybe a subpar bit. Not every voiceover is going to be great, but if you have a really sweet, top-notch sounding opener, that kind of tricks the listener into thinking, wow, this station sounds pretty polished. Even if a particular birthday VO may not be the best ever, at least you could bookend it with a really nice production element.
Wishing you a totally rad birthday from XXX 80s.
So our feature opener is ready to roll. That's our frosting. Now we just have to put some candles in this cake and light this sucker up. And for that, we're heading over to my favorite radio playout software, RadioDJ. and we're going to kick our magic code into action. And I'm going to show you how we're going to put all this together and make this birthday magic on the air. So let's crack open this cool code and I'll show you how this baby works. And I'll show you a couple other fun little safeguard features that are baked into this SQL query. So first off, it's selecting a artist to light a candle for based on this date string in the title of your voiceover cues. So this is where proper track naming makes or breaks this bit. So you see here, and I modified this date just to work for the demo. So right now it's March 21, so I did 03/21 Pet Shop Boys bday. Our code is looking for this date string in the title of this voice track. So this is my birthday voice track. Got it? Overlay file. So when you import all these voice track files, it's crucial that you get this right. And the code is also parsing out the artist name from your track title. All those ingredients have to be in there for this cake to bake. And what you're going to do, you're going to change this subcategory. So right now, my voice track birthdays are in subcategory 202. That'll obviously be different for you. Something else that it's doing, it's checking the cue list to make sure this artist isn't in the cue list, and then you may want to adjust your rotation rules here. But I'm being a little more lenient for these birthday bits just so we have enough songs and artists to choose from. So you could set these numbers to a variable that works for you. This code also assumes that you have a whiz-bang feature opener and a closing jingle. Not only does it help sell the bit that much better if you have a fun birthday opener, but this code is looking for the specific track ID of that opener and also of your jingle, you see right here. And then sandwiched in the middle is our voiceover file at subcategory 202 for me. Now, it took a while for me to get this right, but I do have a fallback mechanism in the works. Let's say we go belly up for birthdays and there just maybe aren't any voice tracks or the rules don't mesh. And this segment, when it comes up, just doesn't have any birthday voice tracks to play. Well, there is a fallback mechanism in place, which I'll show you that in practice in 1 second. It'll then choose, and this is the code right here. So if birthday artist is null, meaning it doesn't exist, then it's going to play a jingle from this subcategory. And for me, 11 is just my general generic station jingles category. And then also what's going to happen, it's going to pick a song from this genre. So for me, 143 is my basic top 40 genre. So if it cannot find a artist birthday voice track, meaning it wouldn't then pair it with a song from that artist, then it's going to play a general station jingle followed by a song from this genre. So this obviously is different for you. You need to plug in variables that wet your whistle. Scanning down the code here for the actual birthday song, I'm making sure these rotation rules match all the other rotation rules that I have logged in the code here. With that being said, let's turn the key and see what we get. So we've got our happy birthday open, we've got a Pet Shop Boys voiceover, then we close out with a jingle, and we go right into the Pet Shop Boys.
Today, it's Neil Tennant's birthday. I bet you didn't know that this Pet Shop Boys marvel actually began his career as a music journalist for Smash Hits before turning into one of the coolest synth-pop legends of all time. Neil, your lyrics have been the soundtrack of our memories. Happy birthday, Neil Tennant from XXX80s.
Wishing you a totally rad birthday from XXX80s.
To test the fallback mechanism, I'm changing the date on here so we don't have any current birthdays. So if we jump back over to that query, and if we run it again, look at that. We have a jingle being pulled from my generic station jingles category, and it's lining up a song from Breathe. And that keeps the train on the tracks. So happy to you. I hope you enjoyed your sweet gift. This is just the gift that keeps on giving to your listeners all year round. I really hope you take this for a spin, rip the paper off this, and just go nuts. Make it your own. Maybe you have a fresh spin you'd like to put on this. Well, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments below. I'm Jeff, the radio DJ dude, and if this video motivated you to go grab a stick and just beat the hell out of a piñata, well, I'd love a like and subscribe from you. That would just be the tastiest gift you can give this radio DJ dude. And until our next little radio rendezvous, you keep rocking those mics all over the world.